Tonight, you are the only human in the room. At least, that's what you believe. For almost all of human history, that sentence would have been false. There was a time when our world belonged to many kinds of humans, not just one. They walked different landscapes. They hunted different animals. They buried their dead. They made tools. Some even made art. And for thousands of years, they shared the earth with us. Then, one by one, they vanished. The strangest part is not that they disappeared. The strangest part is that traces of them are still inside you. If your ancestors came from Europe or Asia, around 2% of your DNA came from another human species. You carry pieces of people you have never met, people who no longer exist. How did that happen? To answer that question, we have to travel back, long before cities, long before farming, long before written history. Around 7 million years ago, the ancestors of humans split from the ancestors of chimpanzees. That single split began one of evolution's strangest experiments. Over millions of years, many different human relatives appeared. Most disappeared without leaving descendants. Others survived for astonishing lengths of time. Evolution was not trying to create us. It was simply testing possibilities. One branch learned to walk upright. Another developed larger brains. Another mastered different climates. Each adaptation opened a new path. Around 1.9 million years ago, a species called Homo erectus spread farther than any human before it. Researchers have found their fossils across Africa and Asia. They controlled fire. They crafted hand axes with remarkable precision. They survived for more than 1 million years. That is far longer than our own species has existed. Imagine meeting them. They would seem familiar, yet unmistakably different. Their bodies were powerful. Their skulls were long and low. Their faces projected forward. But if you watched them around a campfire, you might recognize something deeply human. Cooperation, planning, teaching, perhaps even storytelling. Every generation inherited knowledge from the one before. That simple act changed everything. Knowledge became stronger than instinct. Then, the human family tree grew even stranger. Around 700,000 years ago, new branches emerged. Some eventually became Neanderthals. Others evolved into Denisovans. Another branch would eventually become us. For hundreds of thousands of years, these groups lived separate lives. Ice ages reshaped continents. Mountains isolated populations. Climate pushed people into new territories. Evolution quietly continued in different directions. The Neanderthals adapted to freezing Europe. Their bodies became shorter and stronger. Their wide chests conserved heat. Their large noses warmed icy air before it reached their lungs. For decades, scientists imagined Neanderthals as slow and unintelligent. That picture has almost completely disappeared. Archaeological discoveries tell another story. They cared for injured companions. Some individuals survived severe disabilities for years. That suggests compassion, not just survival. They crafted sophisticated stone tools. They controlled fire. Evidence from sites in Europe suggests they used pigments and ornaments. Some caves even hint at symbolic behavior. They were not failed humans. They were successful humans, successful enough to survive brutal Ice Age environments for hundreds of thousands of years. Then came one of archaeology's greatest surprises. In 2010, a tiny finger bone discovered inside Denisova cave transformed human history. The bone looked ordinary. Its DNA did not. A team led by geneticist Svante Pääbo discovered it belonged to an entirely unknown group of humans. They became known as the Denisovans. Scientists had identified a new human species before understanding what it looked like. That had never happened before. Almost everything we know about Denisovans came from genetics. Fragments of bone, a few teeth, tiny pieces of evidence. Yet those fragments revealed an enormous story. Denisovans spread across vast regions of Asia. They encountered modern humans, and they had children together. Those encounters never disappeared. People living today in parts of Oceania and Southeast Asia still carry significant amounts of Denisovan DNA. Some inherited genes helped populations survive at high altitude. Researchers studying Tibetan populations discovered Denisovan genetic variants that improve adaptation to thin mountain air. Ancient encounters still shape modern lives. Now, imagine the Earth around 50,000 years ago. Modern humans were expanding into Eurasia. Neanderthals already lived there. Denisovans occupied parts of Asia. Other mysterious human groups may have survived elsewhere. This was not an empty planet waiting for us. It was already inhabited. When these different humans met, many things could happen. Sometimes they competed. Sometimes they avoided each other. Sometimes they exchanged ideas. Sometimes they formed families. Human history was never as simple as a single species marching across the globe. It was a network, a conversation, a collision of cousins. ones. So why are we the only ones left? That question still divides scientists. Some researchers argue modern humans developed larger social networks. Ideas spread faster between distant groups. Innovations survived longer. Others point toward language, perhaps more complex communication, allowed knowledge to accumulate more efficiently. Some emphasize climate instability. Rapid environmental changes placed enormous pressure on every human population. Others believe no single explanation exists. Small disadvantages repeated over thousands of years may have been enough. A slightly smaller population, a harsher winter, a failed hunting season, a disease, a migration. History does not always require dramatic endings. Sometimes, extinction happens quietly. One generation survives. The next does not. Eventually, only memories remain. Except, in this case, even the memories disappeared. For thousands of years, nobody knew Neanderthals had existed. Nobody imagined Denisovans at all. The evidence rested beneath caves, riverbanks, and ancient sediments, waiting for someone to notice. In 1856, workers discovered unusual bones in Germany's Neander Valley. At first, scientists argued endlessly over what they had found. Some believed the bones belonged to a diseased modern human. Others proposed an ancient race. Only later did researchers recognize an entirely different human species. That discovery changed our understanding of ourselves forever. Then, genetics changed it again. Ancient DNA allowed scientists to ask questions fossils alone could never answer. Who were they related to? Did they meet us? Did they disappear completely? The answers were astonishing. No, yes, and not entirely. Every time researchers sequence another ancient genome, the human story becomes more complicated. The family tree now looks less like a tree. It looks like braided rivers. Branches split apart, then unexpectedly reconnect. Genes crossed between populations. Ideas probably crossed as well. Our ancestors were never isolated for long. Neither were our relatives. What does that mean for us? It means humanity was never a single straight line, climbing toward perfection. It was an ecosystem. Many experiments existed at once. Some succeeded for hundreds of thousands of years. Some vanished quickly. One happened to survive until now. That survivor is us. But survival does not always mean superiority. Neanderthals survived Europe longer than modern civilization has existed. Homo erectus endured for more than 1 million years. Measured by longevity alone, they outperformed us. Perhaps intelligence is not evolution's greatest achievement. Perhaps adaptability is. Perhaps cooperation is. Or perhaps survival is simply the result of countless accidents that no species can predict. The next time you look into a mirror, remember something extraordinary. Your face belongs to the last remaining human species, but it was never the only one. Your ancestors lived beside cousins who laughed, hunted, protected children, and watched the same stars. Some became rivals. Some became family. Some left pieces of themselves inside your DNA. The world did not always belong to us. For most of human history, humanity was a crowded family. Now the gathering is over. Only one branch remains, and the silence left behind may be the most remarkable clue of all.